Welcome guys to a brand new video. Now in today's video we are going to be reacting to a particular video called Factual Comparisons of Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact. Now I will be mentioning a couple of points that I disagree with this creator on, and I want to say this is not me digging at the creator or me trying to start a fight. We are not Tecton over here. We are just trying to analyze a video, tell my own opinion. I will not be bashing the creator, and again, I'm not bashing Tecton for doing what he does. Honestly, his videos are entertaining as well. But I am not Tecton. I am not here trying to have a whole ass fight with a creator or something like that. I just want to talk about my opinions about his video, and if this creator Blazion sees this video, hopefully he can go ahead and tell me why he picked some of these points that he mentioned, or some of the facts, quote unquote, that he used, because it was kind of like cherry picking certain facts to prove his points or to push an agenda, in my opinion. Now what I was expecting with this video, honestly, when I saw this title, was he lays out the facts and then at the end he has his own opinion, so it leaves you to at least create your own opinion. However, throughout the video you can clearly tell which agenda he's trying to push, which game is pushing for, because some of the information or some of the facts he picked are kind of cherry picking, which I will mention again. I will go ahead and talk about the ones I feel are cherry picking, and I do actually agree with the creator that Wuthering Waves is a better game than Genshin. I am not disputing that. I just feel like the way he went about with the video kind of pushes it and makes it a bit unfair. I wanted an unbiased video technically, because there's so many content creators for WoW and Genshin, and they're all biased towards their own game. I just wanted someone who is not going to be biased, and everyone always likes to think they're unbiased with their video, but they are not. Now I'm hoping I don't fall into that category, because I want to stand up for like actual facts, proving each point and understanding certain stuff. So first of all, let's talk about the first point he mentioned, which was the anniversary. Now one issue I had with this was, why did this guy, or why did the creator decide to pick the first year anniversary of Genshin to compare with the first year anniversary of Wuthering Waves? Now some of you guys are going to say, well, it's the first year anniversary, it makes sense to compare it. No. Just like how I can say a fact that is technically true, but context is important. First of all, when the first year anniversary of Genshin was released, this was at a point when Genshin had the market by his balls. Genshin was thriving. Genshin was literally the god of Gacha, the Gacha game that everyone wanted to play and every game wanted to be like, because Genshin released with that 0.6% rate or something like that, absolutely atrocious rate. Look at how many Gacha games are doing that shitty rate right now. Screw Genshin for doing that. Actually, Genshin changed how Gacha rates are done now, and I really do not like it, and how banners are done pisses me off. Anywho, let's just talk about the climate that Genshin came out with. Genshin came out with a Gacha game that honestly offers quality, which Gacha games are not known for. Gacha games are known for being scummy, giving you shit stuff, but it wasn't for quality that you'd play Gacha games. Genshin came out and it was the different one. It was a unique one. Good open world stuff that everyone was interested in, and everyone was captivated by Genshin. Everyone loved the game. But of course, the devs were like, you know what? We have the market by its balls. We have no reason to be nice or generous. Screw this. So they gave out shitty rewards. Simple as that. No good compensation moving forward, terrible rewards. They literally knew they had no reason to do any of that, because players are still going to stay. The amount of times players have complained about Genshin throughout its years before Wuthering Waves came out, so many people have complained, so many players have complained. Nothing changed, because they knew you guys would still spend your money. Literally, it was not changing, so they had no reason to be generous with the anniversary, and that's why I don't think it's a fair comparison to compare Genshin at a point where they knew they were on top and they had no reason to be nice, and then comparing it to Wuthering Waves anniversary, where they literally had every incentive to give out amazing reward, because they were trying to prove a point. They were trying to drive home the message that we are going to be more generous than Genshin. To be honest, they flopped at that, because the anniversary rewards were not as generous as I thought it would be, and it was a bit iffy. But again, my main issue with the Blazion's point was, why are we picking the first year anniversary? Because although it's the first year anniversary, its context matters as well. When it was released, the climate Genshin was in, the devs mindset, none of that. So I feel like it would have been a fair comparison to compare the recent Genshin anniversary to the current anniversary of WoW. However, I will still admit that Genshin would have a slight edge, because they recently started to change it because of Ruwa. So it would be a little bit unfair to even compare that new anniversary of Genshin with Ruwa, because Genshin would have a slight edge because of that. But at the same time, comparing it to the first year anniversary was a bit unfair. It's a bit unfair, cherry picking the facts to suit your points. And even then, the difference in rewards wasn't too great. You know, it's like 10 multis different or 10 summon different. And even then, Blazion did one mistake in his video where he was calculating the pulls we got as extra. He calculated an event which you technically had to summon to get that free 10 pull. I mean, you can get some of the pulls, but you can't get the full 10 pull unless you actually spend or summon, sorry, not spend, you actually summon for characters, which is not really free to play friendly or like easy resource to get. I think the event was called, let me try and find it actually. I think it was the one with the shop one. Basically, that one was a bit, it was not really correct to include that in a calculation of free rewards we got from Wuwa, because not everyone is going to be getting that, because not everyone is summoning for Zani, not everyone is summoning for Chikona, because people are going to be saving resources for Katefia. So it's a bit, I think it's called Gilded Nightmare actually. I think that's what it's called, the Gilded Nightmare event, where you're supposedly, also Gilded Night Market, that's it. To get the full summon that you get there, you need to spend or summon, which is not really a good event. And I'm not the only one complaining about that. Go over to Reddit, you see other people complain. Anyways, that's one thing also I wanted to talk about with the anniversary point he mentioned. Hopefully you guys can explain to me why he decided to pick the first year anniversary, and if you still think it's a fair comparison, it is not the same. It's like me comparing a first year anniversary of freaking FGO with Wuwa and comparing how the anniversary rewards were done. It's not the same. You know, Wuwa and FGO were released at different times in a period, at different times in Gacha lifespan, so therefore the rewards will be slightly different. It will be better now actually. Anyways, next point he also did was comparing the compensation. Now I actually found this a bit weird. He compared compensation that people got from Zhongli. I think I wasn't there when that issue happened. Basically, I played Genshin for like a day. I hated it, quit. So I wasn't there for when the Zhongli issue happened. But from what I understand, Zhongli was a character that was based off a god. Basically, everyone assumed he was going to be strong. He came out, was absolutely weak. Everyone complained, and they gave a compensation of 500 Primo Gems. They weren't going to change the character. Eventually they did, but that was a compensation, and that's what the creator decided to use, comparing it to the first week of release of Wuwa, where it was absolutely atrocious, game-breaking bugs, people could not play, and they gave out a 5-star ticket and a bunch of free summon. I feel like those are two separate type of compensation, and of course warrants two separate type of rewards. He was comparing 500 Primo Gems, where situation of a character just wasn't as strong as what people like, compared to the game literally being unplayable. Of course, Wuthering Waves had literally all the incentives to release amazing rewards to get players to continue to play the game. Literally, it was unfair to compare those two situations, and of course pushes that agenda that Wuwa is just more better in compensation. Now, I will still say yes, Wuwa is better than Genshin in compensation, but the example he gave was a bit unfair in general, because then I could just say, oh, they nerfed Nuvalet, everyone complained, they gave out a free multi. Look at that, that's amazing. It's not a fair comparison, and that's why I really didn't like this comparison, to be honest. Comparing compensation is just not good in my opinion. Anywho, that's one point, and I think the next point he talked about was the gacha. Again, we have to properly calculate the cost of each gacha to fully understand which one is cheaper. Yes, Genshin's pity is at 100, but you really never go to 100 pity. I think the creator actually showed that it's technically 100. No one actually goes to 100 summons in Genshin. It's at least like 80 to 90 pulls, if that. So I usually get my pity around like 70 something. So the creator calculated it's like, oh, it's 100%, 100 summons, sorry, to guarantee yourself get 100 summon you have to do to guarantee getting a 5-star. It is not. It's a lot cheaper than that. It's like 79, and again with Ruwal, I always actually get the guaranteed around like 70 something. So it's not that much different. I would say not that much different. So let me just quickly see if he actually puts the number down. Compensation, and then it goes to gacha system differences. It's around like 80 summons, or 85, 86, 87. So it's a little bit like so with Wuwa, pretty much getting your character around like 70 something summon, and then with Genshin it's around like 80 something summon. So there's not much difference in my opinion. So yes, although actual pity in Wuthering Wave is 80 and Genshin is 100, it might phrase it as Wuwa winning. It's not exactly the case. Wuwa still wins in general, but it's not by much. It's not like a 20 summon different. It's not. It's literally like a 10 summon different, something like that. But then again, he also did not talk about how Genshin protects you from losing 50-50 multiple times. Wuthering Waves does not. So again, this is another point he didn't talk about with the gacha comparison. I'm not sure if he actually plays Genshin, because that's something that he would definitely have mentioned if he did play Genshin. But yeah, Genshin does have that. I think it's called a Radiant Summon. It's not as amazing as it sounds. I think if you lose like 3 50-50s in a row, when I mean in a row, you get your 50-50, you get your guaranteed 50-50 guaranteed, 50-50 guaranteed. If you lose a 50-50 that like 3 times, then you get your Radiant Summon, I believe around the 4th. I'm not exactly too sure, but it's not as, it's not like you lose 50-50 once and then, oh look, it's a Radiant Summon. It's not like that. It doesn't seem like that. But Wuwa, you can technically lose your 50-50 ongoing, like for a long ass time. So again, I do think that's a benefit on Genshin's part, but the creator never mentioned that. So it's a bit of a cherry picking situation, or maybe he just didn't know about this. So that's one part I also wanted to mention. And another part with what he mentioned was with the gacha for weapon. He's totally right about the weapon though. I absolutely have no issue with the weapon stuff he mentioned. Genshin's weapon banner sucks ass. Wuwa wins that easily, no discussion. And he talks about the Tecton situation where he literally spent 1,000, but that was like they changed the weapon banners multiple times because it was that bad. Again, this is a situation where I would say, because Genshin came out first, it was the first game to do like scummy practices, they had to perfect the scummy practices to not be as scummy but still net them enough money. So they had to go through trial and error with the weapon stuff, and eventually they didn't get it right, but it's still better than how it was at the start. The next point he talks about is the stamina, which I fully agree with the domain situation in Genshin, where domains are locked between certain days. Absolutely stupid system. With Wuwa, you can literally do any domain you want anytime. Wuthering Waves win basically. In this section, he wins this point. One issue though I had is when he eventually talked about the artifacts, or echo farming. He mentioned that it is way easier to get echoes in, echo is basically the artifact. He mentioned how it's so much easier to get the echo that you want in Wuthering Waves. You can infinitely farm for echoes without stamina. But yeah, who's doing that though? First of all, who's actually doing that? You're gonna kill the game for yourself. If you're willingly sitting there for like 5 hours trying to get the best echo, you are going to get drained. Okay, I don't think the average Wuwa player is actually doing that, but let's assume players do that, and let's assume people are fine with that. You then run into a situation where you don't have enough sealed tubes to create all those echoes that you've, or not create, to upgrade all the echoes you have farmed. Whereas in Genshin, every artifact is of course locked behind stamina. You need to use your stamina, but at the same time, every trash artifact you get can then be used to upgrade your good artifacts. And he also did not mention that Genshin has a system where you can literally craft yourself an artifact with the good main stat you want, with the two substats you also want, and then they also allow you to guarantee yourself having those substats be upgraded when you upgrade. So again, that's a good system that Genshin has, but he does not talk about that in his video, and then phrases it as Wuwa is better because you can infinitely farm for echoes, which at the same time, just because you can infinitely farm for echoes does not mean you can build those echoes or upgrade those echoes, because you're going to run into an issue where you don't have enough upgrade materials to do that. So in Genshin, harder to get good artifacts you want, but easier to upgrade. In Wuwa, harder or easier to get those echoes you want, but then harder to upgrade them, because the amount of echoes you're going to have to upgrade to finally get that good substat you want is going to be a lot. So again, it's cherry picking, I would say. But at the same time, I think in this category, they're kind of equal in how bad it is or how good it is. I wouldn't say one game wins. So again, facts, but phrased in a way that benefits one game. Also, I believe actually Wuwa did introduce a substat reroll system or something like that. I haven't taken a look at that, I'm not gonna lie. It was recently added in the anniversary, but I'm pretty sure it's like a substat reroll stuff. So I will take a look at that, but I'm gonna mention that right now before people say I'm cherry picking. But yeah, that's another issue I had with the video. What other stuff did he talk about? I think it was the combat now that he mentioned. Let me just quickly scan through his video. Oh no, movement. He is completely right. He is so right with the movement. Wuwa wins this hands down. No competition. I have no issue with any point he mentioned. I don't even care how he insulted Genshin. It is facts. Genshin is painful to go roam around. Absolutely ridiculous. And then Wuwa decides to release a jetpack or glider or whatever that freaking thing is called, or a wing that allows you to fly. They instantly destroyed Genshin's travel. Basically, I already released a video talking about how I love the ecosystem before people call me a Genshin shill. I released a video saying that the ecosystem is one of the greatest feature about Wuthering Waves, and how it's basically a Pokemon. Freaking love that idea. I talked about how traversing in Wuwa basically killed Genshin for me. Literally, it was such a pain to log into Genshin at that point. So again, not a Hoyo shill. I'm just trying to make sure the facts are accurate, or not cherry picking facts. But in this regards, the movement speed is absolutely correct. The movement of traversing the world, Wuwa wins this pretty easily. Now the next point I believe is the sexualization part, which I don't even know what. I just skipped that part. I'm not really there. Gacha games notorious for sexualizing character. I don't care enough to listen about this point, so I'm just gonna skip that. Anyways, next up is the combat system differences. Now I only have one issue with how he phrased it, not even the facts, how he phrased it. The way he was phrasing it is, if you play Genshin and you want to do color matching, you are a child. If you want to play Wuwa, it's a good combat system. The way he phrased it was a bit patronizing to Genshin players, like, yo, you guys are dummies. Basically what he's trying to say. You want a color match? Look at you, baby. That's basically what he said. So again, that's the only issue I had, but I will agree, Wuwa's combat system is better in my opinion. It's better. And he also mentioned how in Genshin elemental system, you don't want to mix and match, blah blah blah. Characters are locked behind a specific archetype because of the elements they are in, whereas in Wuwa it doesn't really matter. And then he tries to say, but Genshin players will complain that, oh, you look at you guys, you have Spectral Frazzle, Zani can't work without Spectral Frazzle, and then he combats saying that by, oh, this is 2 point whatever, it's only been recently introduced, of course we're going to get more spectral characters. Completely agree with that. But the way he phrased how Genshin players are children, I did not really like, because this video is about facts, not opinions. Anyways, that's the one part again. What else did he talk about? He went on a whole talk about the introduction of elements and stuff like that. I'm not really so sure how relevant that was in the factual comparison of Wuwa and Genshin Impact, but it is what it is. Let's keep scrolling to where he talks about what's next. Oh, he talks about, oh yeah, one thing I wanted to say is with Wuwa, they were introduced a new system of Spectral Frazzle, Aero Erosion, Havoc Bane, Fusion Burst, Glacial Chafe, Electro Flare. Now, since we've only been introduced to Spectral Frazzle yet, I'm not sure how the rest will actually affect the game, but right now I can see that Spectral Frazzle makes no difference. It's the same exact playstyle as any of the other playstyle we had previously. So yeah, I think he also mentioned that as well, that so far there's not really any difference with this new specific element stuff they did. I think that's pretty much it. What else? Team building. I will say he did not mention that in Genshin, for team building section, he did not mention that in Genshin 4-star characters are actually used, they are used a lot. A lot of the 4-star characters are useful. In Wuwa, it's just a couple of 4-star characters, and even then they have pretty much abandoned 4 stars. We haven't got any new 4-star character in months. Okay, you can talk about how certain characters are locked behind specific teams and blah blah blah, but it doesn't change the fact that you can get those teams relatively easy because they are 4 stars. Okay, 4-star weapons are also very good in Genshin. Difference in Wuwa, 4-star weapons are just they're not that good. So is the characters as well. Of course, they're going to mention Sanhe I feel like they made a mistake with Sanha. They definitely were not expecting Sanha to be that good, and they will not be releasing another 4-star character on the same tier as Sanha. They definitely will not. Because look at how Russia ended up. Russia is pretty much the most useless 5-star. Okay, I shouldn't have said that. People are gonna hate me for that. Anyways, we're gonna move on. So yeah, his points around the team building is he's pretty much just defending Wuwa in his points because he knows that Genshin fans are saying it's restrictive. But I will back Wuwa on this side because I do feel like it's unfair to compare Wuwa and Genshin with team building at this point, since it's still a relatively new game. We haven't gotten every single character, but I do see the point where people say it's restrictive, but that's only real for one character right now, and that's Zani, and she was a new character. Hopefully they release 4-star Spectral Frazzle character, but I do agree with his points. Genshin fans should not be pissing or complaining about the team building in Wuwa, except they want to mention that 4-star characters are not as useful as it is in Genshin. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about with the team building section. And I think the last point was about communities. Now I will say this, some of the stuff he said about the Genshin communities are like, whoa, I did not know Genshin communities are this bad. It's crazy. Some of them are sending bomb threats, some of them are sending like death messages. You guys need to chill. Like, what the hell? Again, I did not know that, but I will still say that every community has those shitty people, okay? Every community has those shitty people that just honestly represents the community in a negative light. So yeah, that's all I have to say. But I think he had a whole section on community, which I didn't listen to because I'm just gonna say that all communities that have shitty people in it is as simple as that. I can't speak about the whole, Wuthering Waves community in general. But anyways, that is my whole breakdown of this creator's video, which will be linked in the comments section, actually no, in the description of the video, where you guys can check it out yourself. This is my points that I had to call into question. He phrased this as factual comparison, but at the same time cherry picking facts. Clearly shown his own opinion at the start throughout the entirety of the video, and then he had a section about his opinion, but he already showed us that he was really pushing for Wuthering Waves being the better game, which again, I do think Wuthering Waves is better. Anyways, let me know if you agree or disagree with my takes, and hopefully the creator can actually, talk through why he picked certain facts as well. But I don't think he plays Genshin, honestly. I don't know. I don't think he did, because he would have mentioned certain points, but he didn't. And it's been your boy AC Gamer, and I'm out.